Hands up! My name is Barry Shaw. This is The View from Israel on Israel at War. I want to suggest a couple of strategic ideas to take the sting out of the Hamas-Gaza crisis on behalf of the hostages and the lives of our soldiers. I have a plan for the reconstruction of Gaza that will herald a better future without Hamas or Islamic Jihad, and surprisingly, without the corrupt Palestinian Authority. But in this video, let's deal with the current crisis. My idea saves lives, makes for a better future for Gaza, and deprives Iran of the stranglehold it has on Israel over that border. First of all, there's no Hamas without Iran. As I speak to you, Iran said that it will intervene if Israel enters Gaza. That probably means giving the green light for Hezbollah to attack Israel, possibly on two fronts, on the north and the east. So what is America doing? America right now has been very helpful and very positive. Biden has sent 2 aircraft carriers to the Mediterranean. But what did he say about Gaza? Biden told Mahmoud Abbas, that is, there is serious zero chance that he will put American boots on the ground in Gaza, despite the fact that 27 Americans have been killed and 15 at least have been taken hostage by Hamas. He supplied Israel with equipment and planes and told us he would send Israel more essential weapons. That's very good. But he said they would come in a few months. We can't wait that long. And what can we get America to do if Iran sends Hezbollah into the war against Israel? Does Biden have the same verbal punch as Trump? What do I mean by that? Trump told Iran that if either they or their proxies kill a single American, America would strike Iran. And when Iran set fire to the US embassy in Baghdad, killed a US contractor and 4 US servicemen, Trump gave the order to kill Qasem Soleimani. There he warned, if you retaliate, he said, I have picked out 52 targets in Iran to honor all the 52 hostages that you, Iran, held under Jimmy Carter. And guess what? Iran backed down. Why can't Biden do the same now that Hamas has killed 27 Americans and, as I said before, holding 15 hostages? Why doesn't he threaten Iran, as Trump did, that if Hamas touches a hair of a single American or Israeli hostage, he would strike Iran proportionately? That's what the world would expect from a strong American president. But let's get real here. Biden isn't Trump. He has his designs. So what are the possible alternatives? The alternatives are all-out war. And right now, as I speak to you, Israel is amassing mass forces on the border with Gaza, just waiting for the green light to go in. Or maybe there's another solution. My solution. I have a possible strategic solution of solving the hostage crisis, ending the war in Gaza without bloodshed, and giving Gaza a better future without Hamas, without Islamic Jihad, without Iran, and even without the corrupt, incompetent, and unpopular Mahmoud Abbas. The answer for all these dilemmas in one word: Qatar. Qatar is the luxury location in which the rich leaders of Hamas reside and supervise Hamas's actions in Gaza. Qatar is a rich Arab country that has a well-deserved bad reputation of being the hotbed of radical Islam. Sheikh al-Qarawadawi, the spiritual leader of violent jihad and Palestinian terrorism, died in Qatar, in Doha, in September, exactly a year ago, 2022. But Qatar is the Islamic state that has pumped billions of dollars into Gaza to aid the people. And this may surprise you, but Israel has a sort of relationship with Qatar over Gaza. When Israel complained that Qatar money was being seized by Hamas and not going to the Gazans, Qatar changed the rules and supervised the next distribution of money directly to the people. Qatar hosted a summit just this week between Iran and Hamas. This after the Iranian foreign minister had a summit in Beirut with Hezbollah. These are ominous signs, and it would greatly benefit Qatar to moderate its tarnished reputation by transitioning it into a pragmatic peace partner. Qatar would be the ideal negotiations with Hamas for the release of hostages in return for listed Hamas terrorists being allowed to leave Gaza alive and relocate to Qatar. This would achieve two of the prime aims of Israel's operation in Gaza: to destroy Hamas facilities and properties and remove every Hamas member and affiliate, that includes the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Instead of killing them, they would get deported to Qatar, and we managed to sanitize Gaza and make it the fulcrum of a new normalization agreement, perhaps even with Saudi Arabia. You may not know this also, but the United States rents facilities in Qatar, and the United States allows Qatar to sponsor US campuses where they spawn anti-American, anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian indoctrination in American universities to young, impressionable American minds. But my theory is that Qatar could also be the solution to the Hamas problem in Gaza. The top elite, as I said, don't live in Gaza. They live in the luxury I spoke about in Doha, but the families of the top Hamas operators fled Gaza to Qatar for their own safety before they began their invasion and massacre of Jews in Israel. Now, as we go forward, the Gaza local Hamas command is operating and living in the Shifa hospital in Gaza City. They're doing this knowing that Israel would never bomb a hospital. And their killers are hiding underground with the suffering hostages in Gaza City and in Khan Yunis in the Hamas, what it was called the Gaza Metro. So my solution to the crisis is unconventional, but I think practical: to give Hamas terrorists safe passages to Qatar, supervised by the United Nations and Egypt, in exchange for the safe release of hostages. The hostages leave first, then the terrorists. The additional condition would be that any Hamas member that leaves Qatar would be subject to immediate arrest and put on trial at The Hague on war crimes if they would leave Qatar. This would leave a political vacuum in a destroyed Gaza, and I have a solution for that also, which I'll tell you about in my next video. So if you have any constructive thoughts, let me know. I'm Barry Shaw of the Israel Institute of Strategic Studies, and this is The View from Israel.
There are two views of the Israeli military: what you hear in most of the media and the truth. I'm going to tell you the truth. I was the commander of British forces in Afghanistan. I have fought in combat zones around the world, including Northern Ireland, Bosnia, Macedonia, and Iraq. I was also present throughout the conflict in Gaza in 2014. Based on my experience and on my observations, the Israel Defense Force, the IDF, does more to safeguard the rights of civilians in a combat zone than any other army in the history of warfare. Why is this so? Firstly, Israel is a decent country with Western values run on democratic principles. Israel has no more interest in war than Belgium does. In fact, Israel has never started a war. The only reason it ever goes to war is to defend itself. And it has to defend itself because, unlike Belgium, it is surrounded by countries and armed groups that want to destroy it. Secondly, Judaism, with its unsurpassed moral standards, remains a major influence on the citizens of Israel. I say this as a non-Jew. Thirdly, the army is composed overwhelmingly of citizen soldiers. Israel's a small country with a small professional army. To fight a war, it depends on its conscripts and its reservists. These are ordinary citizens, from professors to plumbers, called upon to defend their homes. They don't want to be fighting, and they don't want to harm others. Nowhere was the essential morality and decency of the IDF more evident than in the Gaza war of 2014. If ever there was a purely defensive war, this was it. The war was started by Hamas, the terror organization, designated as such by the US State Department that runs the Gaza Strip. In the first 6 months of 2014, Hamas launched hundreds of rockets at Israeli civilians. After repeated warnings from Israel to stop, the Israeli Air Force finally conducted precision strikes to halt the rocket fire, and the IDF advanced into Gaza to destroy a network of terror tunnels that Hamas had constructed to attack Israeli communities near the Gaza border. The IDF took extraordinary measures to give Gaza civilians notice of targeted areas, dropping millions of leaflets, broadcasting radio messages, sending texts, and making tens of thousands of phone calls. Let me repeat that. The Israelis called Gazans on their cell phones and told them to leave their residences and move to safety. Never in the history of warfare has an army phoned its enemy and told them where they're going to drop their bombs. Many IDF missions that could have taken out Hamas military capabilities were aborted to prevent civilian casualties, increasing the risk to Israeli citizens and soldiers. Despite all of this, of course innocent civilians were killed. Every war is chaotic and confusing, and mistakes are frequent. But mistakes are not war crimes. Hamas, on the other hand, committed war crimes as official government policy. Hamas deliberately positioned its military assets among the civilian population, hiding weapons in schools and hospitals, and placing rocket launchers alongside apartment buildings, then forced those civilians to stay in areas they knew would be attacked. They also instructed their people to report the lie that every Gazan killed was a civilian, even if they were actually fighters. And if there were no civilian deaths, Hamas made them up. Numerous internet sites show Palestinians elaborately staging sniper victims and smashed ambulances, among other phony horrors. It's so common, there's even a term for it, Pallywood, as in Palestinian Hollywood. Ironically, it's the leaders of Hamas themselves who best understand the extraordinary measures the IDF will take to protect innocent civilians. They take full advantage of Israel's decency and adherence to the laws of war. No army takes such risks in order to protect civilians as the Israeli army does. I say this as a professional soldier. I say it because it's true, and people who care about truth should know it. I'm Colonel Richard Kemp for Prager University.
Join Prager University. Click here to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click here to sign up for free at PragerU.com for quizzes, contests, and prizes.